Well, many court watchers are holding their collective breaths to hear who President Biden will nominate to replace retiring Justice Stephen Breyer, the senior most liberal on the U.S. Supreme Court bench. While whoever Biden nominates will not tip the current 6-3 conservative ideological balance, the person will be continuing the liberal legacy of the court, perhaps even outdoing Breyer, Justice Sotomayor, and Kagan in terms of wokeness. Joining me now with the latest on this story is Jeff Mordock. He's a White House reporter for the Washington Times. Jeff, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thanks for having me, Tony. I appreciate it.
All right, so what do we know in terms of when this nomination will take place?
President Biden said today he expects to have a nomination in place, a nominee in place by the end of February. He said it'll be a rigorous process, and he's going to consult lawmakers of both parties as well as legal scholars on who his pick should be.
So did the president renew his campaign promise to nominate a black female to Breyer's seat?
Yes, he did. That was a campaign promise he made, that the first opportunity he would nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court. There's never been a black woman on the Supreme Court, so it's a historic nomination. It's also a chance for a reset for the president. He's had a string of losses legislatively, politically, and this will be a chance to give him a much-needed victory.
Any thoughts as to who the leading contender might be?
There are two candidates, contender Brown Jackson, who is a district court judge here in D.C., circuit court judge, I should say, here in D.C., and Leandra Kruger, who is a California Supreme Court justice. There are a couple of other candidates, Michelle Childs, who's being favored by Representative Claiborne. She's from South Carolina, but it sounds like it's going to be between Brown Jackson and Kruger.
This discussion about the vice president being tapped, is that just inside political rumor that is circulating?
It doesn't make any sense for the president to appoint Vice President Harris, because if she gets approved, if she gets confirmed on the court, then the Democrats would lose their ability to break deadlocks by having the vice president come in and vote. So if the president put up a successor to Vice President Harris, then the Republicans decided that they are going to block that successor. There would be nobody to come in and break the tie, and then we would not have a vice president, which could be problematic for this administration. It would be both embarrassing as well as just create some difficulty in terms of getting things done.
Yeah, and I was even trying to verify today. I couldn't get an answer from those in the Senate as to whether or not the vice president could actually vote on her nomination, whether or not she would have to recuse herself, which then could lead to a 50-50 deadlock in the Senate.
I've asked that question, too. I've also not been able to get an answer. Legal scholars seem split. We've never had a sitting vice president nominated to the Supreme Court. So it's uncharted territory.
One final question for you, Jeff. Does this have any liability for Democrats in the midterm election? I mean, there's a lot of concern. You know, last 4 election cycles, we've had vacancies on the court. This one doesn't shift the ideological makeup. But if the president really picks someone to the left, could this be a liability for Democrats in some of these swing states?
I think it cuts both ways. I think it's something that's going to energize the Democratic base ahead of the midterms, but it's also going to mobilize Republicans. I think both sides are going to see this, and it's going to see the ideology of the candidate that the president's going to put forward. It's going to motivate both sides to be active, and especially with the midterms right down the road.
All right, Jeff Mordock, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your insights.